Before I had experienced infidelity and abandonment, I had never kept a journal. But after, well, I felt compelled to write. And in retrospect, I'm so glad that I did, because that journal, it became the biggest and best tool in my healing process. So what I'm going to share with you today are 10 reasons why you might want to think about journaling yourself. So the first is this: divorce and or infidelity hits like a Mack truck full of intense, messy, complicated emotions. And they're all building inside of you. And by releasing them onto that page, by letting them out, it's the first step in letting them go. Think back to the very first time you told this story to somebody else. How hard was it? Think about the second time you told it. It's probably just a tiny, tiny bit easier. And then the third, and then the fourth. There's a reason that therapists use desensitization to help people overcome their fears and overcome their traumas. And journaling can be a way where you can tell that story again and again and again without fear of tiring out those around you, without concern for how you feel while you tell it. If you tear stain the pages, it's okay. But as you repeatedly write it down, or as you read back over what you've written in the past, it becomes just a little bit easier. You have a little bit more distance from what has happened to you. When it comes to divorce or infidelity, we often face such judgment. People blame us for what happened to us, or they claim that we're not responding appropriately in the moment. And so sometimes we feel like we have to hold it in because we can't handle anybody judging us when we're already so fragile. But the wonderful thing about that journal is you can write down anything. You can say how much you love the person that hurt you, and then in the next line, you can talk about how you just want them dead. And it's okay. Nobody's going to say that you shouldn't feel that way. And that is such a freeing feeling. It's fascinating to go back and read what you've written in the past. When we're in it, we don't feel like we're making any progress. It's sort of how you don't notice your own child growing, but yet your friend's kid that you see every few months seems to shoot up in leaps and bounds. It's like that with your progress. It's like that with your healing. When you're in it, you don't see it. But if you go back and you read what you wrote weeks ago, months ago, you recognize the progress that you've made. It gives you that perspective and it gives you that hope. It's so interesting what the brain does when you write without trying to censor yourself or trying to, write complete sentences or write for an audience. Your brain is processing as you're writing. And it's really fascinating how it's starting to make sense of what happened as you're just putting those words on the page. Our emotions are often these huge, tangled messes, this knot that just seems impenetrable. But as you start to write it down, you're slowly teasing it apart and slowly untangling it. And that untangling is going to help you make sense of what happened. One of the funny things that can happen when you journal is that sometimes you get tired of yourself. I found myself whining about some of the same things in my journal day after day. And by the time I wrote it down, the 10th time, the 11th time, I was like, oh, this is just annoying. I'm tired of writing this thing down. And that moment when you get sick of it, it's actually a really powerful moment because that's when you start to look for solutions. That's when you start to look for a way that maybe you can shift your perspective or make a change because you want to move on. If you are or were in a relationship where there was any sort of abuse or manipulation or gaslighting, what happens is you lose touch with your own voice. You lose touch with your own truth. And journaling is a way to cut out all that noise. You're not listening to anybody else other than yourself. It's a way to get back in touch with who you are and to learn how to listen to your gut, to your intuition again. Journaling also has two very practical benefits. One, it's accessible. It's almost free, and it's something that you can fit into just a few moments at any time of day. And both of those are very important after divorce when both money and time can be an issue. The other benefit of it is that it can fill a void. Those nights when maybe you feel so alone, that journal, that page helps to fill that space. It gives you that opportunity to feel a connection, even if it's just within. And then finally, the most important piece, I think, of a journal is that it allows you to shape your narrative. You may not have been a willing participant in whatever has happened to you, but now it is your opportunity to weave that story, to shape those words. You now get to tell the story that you want. You can write down everything that has happened, and then you can turn that page and you can write what is going to happen next.